Okay, welcome back. Another video here. Today's review will be on the 1997 World Series Florida Marlins. Let me get right into the offenses. This is going to go into great detail here because there was a lot of platooning on this team. And once again, I'm going off of the Strat-O-Matic book that they released with the Diamond Gem set. What was pretty much set in stone every day versus lefties and righties. You had Devon White leading off in center field and Edgar Renteria batting second and playing shortstop. So real quick, I'm going to show you their on base chance numbers right there. You can see those numbers are a little bit low of what you want to see out of your 1-2 guys. The next guy that I'm going to show you is second baseman Kurt Abbott, who plays second base and hits third against left-handed pitching. Once again, going off of the Strat-O-Matic book that comes with the set. You can see pretty solid numbers out of him. Now let's move on to three guys who were in the middle of the order, albeit in different positions in the order. But these guys were pretty much set in stone to play every day, and that will be Gary Sheffield, Moises Alou, and Bobby Bonilla. And I'm going to go ahead and show you all of their numbers, both their on base chances and their hits with multiple base advancement. You can see Sheffield just has incredible on base numbers, just terrific numbers. And Sheffield plays every day in right field. And according to the book, he is cleanup against left-handed pitching and third against right-handed pitching. Moises Alou, obviously, every day in left. He is fifth against left-handed pitching and sixth against right-handed pitching, and Bobby Bonilla every day at third. The book has him as sixth against left-handed pitching and cleanup against right-handed pitching. So if I was to look at these three guys all together, you get really excellent on base numbers out of them. But again, what I really kind of weigh pretty heavily is what do these guys who are hitting in the middle of the order doing for you when it comes to multiple base advancement with their hits? And you can see Sheffield's numbers are a little bit low. He does have a number of ballpark effect home runs on his card, however, so obviously those numbers can go up a little bit depending on obviously the ballpark you're playing in. And real quick, just to give you those numbers, the ballpark effect home runs in Florida that year, according to the Strat-O-Matic book, if you're a right-handed hitter on a D20, it's a 1 through 7. So you got okay chances of hitting the ball out if you're a right-handed hitter. If you're a lefty, you don't have much of a chance on a D20. It's 1 to 3. You get excellent numbers out of Moises Alou and Bobby Bonilla against left-handed pitching. And just okay numbers, actually numbers that are a little bit low against right-handed pitching. Now, let me move on to the first base platoon where we have Jeff Conine playing against lefties and Darren Dalton playing against righties. So terrific on base chance numbers. But once again, the hits with multiple base advancement is a little low. Same story with Darren Dalton. So that is your first base platoon. Now, I'm going to dig a little deeper into the Marlins offense, and this is going to play into a lot of my score later on. Two guys who are not listed in the lineup, but you could either choose to put them in your lineup or very good options to come off the bench and hit for you. I'm going to show you a couple guys here. I'm going to show you the numbers for Cliff Floyd and the backup catcher Greg Zahn. And you can see Zahn's on base chance numbers are just absolutely amazing. His defensive numbers behind the plate are not good, but you could see just a terrific card out of Zahn. And Cliff Floyd gives you very solid production from the left-handed side of the plate with both his on-base chances and his hits with multiple base advancement. And as you saw when I showed you the numbers for Sheffield, Alou, and Bonilla, those numbers were a little bit down versus right-handed pitching when it comes to hits with multiple base advancement. So I would suggest if you have a chance to try to find a way to work Cliff Floyd into your lineup. As we look at the Marlins offense as a whole, you're going to see that they grade out at a very good score of a 4.3 out of 5. I landed on scores of a 4 out of 5 for both on base percentage and middle of the order. And I landed on a perfect 5 out of 5 score for righty lefty mix, because this is one thing which I really like about this lineup is that you have very consistent production from your lineup as you go through the lineup. You don't really have any guys who are really impacted as far as the guys who play every day, any guys who are really impacted by facing pitchers from the opposite side. Yes, I would like it if, once again, Sheffield, Alou, and Bonilla's numbers were better against right-handed pitching. However, their numbers are excellent against left-handed pitching, and you do have plenty of options to play with when you play with the 1997 Marlins. Once again, you don't obviously have to go by the Strat-O-Matic book and go with the lineup against righties where you have Sheffield 3, Bonilla 4, Dalton 5, Alou 6. You could play around with it, of course. I just use the book as a reference. But then when I step back and look at the entire offense, there's no way this offense can score under a 4, because they are really, really good at getting on base throughout the lineup, and you do get very, very good production deep in your lineup, and you have plenty of options to come off the bench and pinch hit or even spot play. So once again, that's my score on the 97 Marlins offense. They grade out as a 4.3 out of 5. Now, as we look at the defense, this is where, things get a little bit complicated here. Let me start with the middle infield defense. Edgar Renteria was every day at shortstop. You're very good with Renteria at short. And as far as your second base defense, it kind of depends on what you're facing that day, because if you're facing a right-handed pitcher, obviously you're very, very good at second base with Craig Counsell. But if you're facing a lefty and you choose to play Kurt Abbott, that's not a rating that you want to see. So I had to weigh everything equally. So the middle infield defense grades out of 3.3 out of 5. The outfield defense, this was easy to run through real quick because there were no platoons in the outfield. According to the Strat-O-Matic book, you were set in the outfield, left to right with Alou, Devon White, and Gary Sheffield. I really wish Gary Sheffield was not a 4 in 1997, because my rule is if you've got 1 4 in the outfield, even though it's in a corner spot, you can't get a grade of a 4 or higher, because 4s just kill you in the outfield. So the outfield grades out as a 3.5 out of 5. Now we look at the E ratings. Let me stay in the outfield. This is good news for the Marlins E rating score. Yeah, Gary Sheffield is a 4, but his E rating is very much in line. So the outfield portion of the Marlins E rating grade, the outfield portion, no issues there. I actually gave them a 5 out of 5 there. The middle infield E rating, you're very good at shortstop. You're excellent at second base when Counsell plays. But if you're playing Abbott at second base and you're facing a left-handed pitcher, an E27 is not what you want. So as I graded everything out, the middle infield E rating comes out to a 3.6 out of 5. And then we look at the corners. You have Bobby Bonilla every day at third, and at first base, you have Darren Dalton against righties and Conine against lefties. Really, the only saving grace is Bonilla's E rating is just slightly above where I like to see it. I don't like E ratings at third base when you get into the mid 20s or higher. I prefer them no higher than 24. So third base portion just average. First base is not good at all. Conine is not great. That's a below average E rating, and Darren Dalton is his E rating is really not what you want at first base. So the overall E rating for the Florida Marlins comes out to a 3.2 out of 5 when I grade everything up equally. So the 97 Marlins final grade on their defense comes out to a 3.3 out of 5, which basically means they're just below good. It's above average, but before good, if that makes any sense. Um, so let me look at the starting rotation. Let's go through this real quick. Kevin Brown, this was a very easy score for me. You see his on base chance numbers right there. Really terrific card out of Kevin Brown in 1997. In his prime, Kevin Brown always had very solid Strat-O-Matic cards because he was always a guy when he was on and he was on his game. He was always a guy who had very low whips and really terrific numbers out of Kevin Brown. This was an easy call, perfect ace card, 5 out of 5 here. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the numbers for the starting rotation depth. Here you see the numbers for Alex Fernandez, Al Leiter, Levon Hernandez, and Tony Saunders. Um, all the numbers check out pretty good. What I'm not crazy about Tony Saunders' card is that, yes, he does have terrific numbers against left-handed hitting and good numbers against right-handed batters. However, there are some ballpark effect home runs on both sides of his card that can be an issue. What I really like about Levon Hernandez is he keeps the ball in the ballpark. He actually has no ballpark effect home runs on his card. So all these numbers check out pretty good. So my overall score for the Marlins starting rotation comes out to a 4.4 out of 5 as I gave them a starting rotation depth score of a 3.7 out of 5. So that 4.4 is obviously driven a lot by the ace Kevin Brown, as well it should be. So the Florida Marlins starting rotation score comes out to a very, very good 4.4 out of 5. Now let's look at the bullpen. First, let me show you the numbers for Rob Nen. I'm not particularly crazy about this card out of Rob Nen that year. Little too many on base chances for me. Not to mention some issues with ballpark effect home runs. So he grades out at just a little bit above average. He gets a 3 out of 5. The good news with the Marlins bullpen is I do really like the depth in this bullpen. I'm going to show you the numbers now for righty Jay Powell, and then I'm going to show you the numbers for Dennis Cook and Gil Heredia. And you can see all these numbers check out pretty good, but just a couple of notes on each pitcher. What I really like about Jay Powell, when you look at those numbers and then you couple in the fact that he's really good at keeping the ball in the ballpark. The same thing with Gil Heredia, no issues with ballpark effect home runs. And Dennis Cook, who is one of your lefties out of the bullpen, he does have some issues with ballpark effect home runs against right-handed batters, but he has no issues with ballpark effect home runs against lefties. So my score for the Florida Marlins bullpen depth comes out to a good score of a 3.5 out of 5. So overall, the bullpen grades out at a 3.25 out of 5. So if we're to peel everything back and look at the 1997 World Series champions as a whole, you're going to see that they grade out at a very solid score of a 3.8 out of 5. Now, I should say one thing about this score. A lot of it is kind of dependent on what you choose to do with the Marlins when you play for them. It is nice that they have a lot of interchangeable parts, but the parts do bring some issues with them. I take you back to, okay, what do you want to do at second base? Do you want to put Kurt Abbott in the lineup and use him against left-handed pitching where he has very nice hitting numbers on his card, but there's a chance he's going to hurt you defensively? Same thing with, what do you want to do at first base? Do you really want to play Darren Dalton at first base, who is a 5 with a high E rating? It all depends on what you choose to do. My grades and the way I work out my sheets is I use the Strat-O-Matic book as my template as to how I grade the teams. But obviously, It's your game. You choose how to play it. That's a great thing about Strat-O-Matic. You could say I'm going to go with a offensive team and try to get the lead, and then by the fifth inning, I'll move all my defensive backups into the game. So that 3.8 out of 5 score, that's my score on the 1997 Florida Marlins. I would say that this is a very interesting team to play with. Like I just spoke on. A lot of interchangeable parts, a lot of different things you could do with the lineup, and you do have some very interesting options out of the bullpen that can shorten the game when you're in the fifth and sixth innings. I'm just not particularly crazy about the closer, Rob Nen. His card was a little bit rough in 1997. So that's my video on the 1997 Florida Marlins. I thank you all for watching. My next video will be on the 1976 Big Red Machine. Have a good day, everyone.